Welcome to the Wisdom of Time. In 476 CE, the last Roman emperor was overthrown. An empire that ruled for over 1,000 years, that controlled 2 million square miles, that seemed invincible, simply collapsed. But here's what most people don't know. Rome wasn't conquered from the outside. It destroyed itself from within. The same strengths that built the empire became the weaknesses that destroyed it. And the terrifying part? We might be watching history repeat itself today. This is the story of how Rome fell, and why it still matters right now. Let's start at the peak. By 117 CE, the Roman Empire was the greatest superpower the world had ever seen. From Scotland in the north to Egypt in the south, from Spain in the west to Syria in the east. Nearly 2 million square miles under one government. The Mediterranean Sea? The Romans called it Mare Nostrum, our sea, because they controlled every coastline, every trade route, every single port. Rome itself was a marvel. Massive amphitheaters, aqueducts bringing fresh water from miles away, roads connecting the entire empire, the Colosseum, where 50,000 spectators watched gladiatorial combat. This was engineering on a scale the world wouldn't see again for over 1,000 years. And the wealth? Unimaginable. Roman elites lived in a luxury that would make modern billionaires jealous. Historical records describe banquets with literally thousands of dishes. Exotic animals hunted from 3 different continents. Wine aged for a century, worth more than a human life. But here's the thing about empires at their peak. They never realize they're already dying. Because while the elite feasted, the foundation was cracking. Problem number 1. The military became too powerful. The Roman army was Rome's greatest strength. Its disciplined legions conquered nation after nation. But by the 3rd century, something had changed. The army didn't serve the empire anymore. The empire served the army. Military commanders started deciding who would be emperor. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's own bodyguards, would literally auction the throne to the highest bidder at the Senate gates. From 235 to 285 CE, just 50 years, Rome had more than 50 emperors. Most were assassinated by their own soldiers. Some ruled for just a few weeks. Compare that to the first 200 years of the empire, which saw only 14 emperors, most dying of natural causes. The system was breaking down. Problem number 2. Economic inequality destroyed social cohesion. While the wealthy patricians competed over who could serve more exotic dishes, ordinary Romans struggled just to survive. The streets had no sanitation. Citizens used public areas as toilets. Disease was rampant. The Cyprian plague in the 3rd century killed up to 5,000 people per day in Rome alone. And here's the economic trap. Rome's wealth was built on slave labor. Millions of slaves worked the fields, produced the wine, and mined the resources. This made landowners incredibly rich, but it destroyed the Roman working class. Why hire a Roman citizen when a slave works for free? Unemployed Romans had only a few options. Join the already oversized military, migrate to cities with no jobs, or turn to crime. The social fabric was tearing apart. Problem 3. Rome lost its identity. In 212 CE, Emperor Caracalla granted Roman citizenship to millions of people across the empire. Sounds progressive, right? But many historians argue it backfired spectacularly. Suddenly, people from Syria to Scotland were Romans. But they didn't speak Latin, didn't worship Roman gods, and didn't share Roman culture. What did it even mean to be Roman anymore? The shared identity that held the empire together vanished. Now let me tell you about Emperor Commodus, because his reign perfectly captures Rome's decline. Commodus became emperor in 180 CE. He was the son of Marcus Aurelius, one of Rome's greatest philosopher-emperors. But Commodus, he was a disaster. He had a strange obsession. He believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules, the legendary Roman hero. So he did what any rational person would do. He became a gladiator. The Emperor of Rome entered the Colosseum with a sword, fighting professional gladiators in front of thousands of spectators. And he won, again and again. 12,000 victories, according to later historians. Except it was all rigged. His opponents were given blunt swords. Some were blinded before the fight. Others were simply ordered to lose. At first, Romans were excited to see their emperor fight, but they quickly realized it was just theater. Pathetic theater. This wasn't strength, it was delusion. And it was expensive. These games cost a fortune. The treasury was drained to fund his ego. By 192 CE, even his own family and mistress had enough. They poisoned him. When the poison didn't work fast enough, they sent a wrestler to strangle him in his bath. Commodus was the last stable emperor. His death triggered permanent chaos. Over the next century, Rome would see nearly 70 rulers. The era of civil wars had begun. As Rome weakened, its enemies sensed blood. The Germanic tribes beyond the Rhine and Danube, people Romans had dismissed as barbarians for centuries, started pushing south. But here's where it gets interesting. Rome couldn't defeat them militarily anymore. So they tried something different: diplomacy. Roman generals would make deals with one tribe to fight another. They'd allow tribes to settle within Roman territory in exchange for military service. Sounds smart, right? Except these tribes eventually realized Rome is weak. Why serve them when we could rule them? By the 5th century, barbarian generals commanded Roman armies. Barbarian chiefs advised Roman emperors. The lines blurred completely. And then in 476 CE it happened. A Germanic chieftain named Odoacer simply deposed the last Western Roman emperor, a teenager named Romulus Augustulus. No massive battle, no long siege. It was just over. The Western Roman Empire, heir to 1,000 years of history, ended not with a bang, but with a whimper. But wait, there's a twist. Half of the Roman Empire survived. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, continued for another 1,000 years. We call it the Byzantine Empire. Why did it survive when the West fell? 3 reasons. First, geography. Constantinople had walls so strong that enemies couldn't breach them for centuries. Second, religion. Emperor Constantine had made Christianity the state religion, giving the empire a new, unifying identity when Roman paganism was dying. Third, adaptation. The Eastern Empire learned from the West's mistakes. They maintained a smaller, more professional military, stronger central authority, and better economic management. The Byzantine Empire finally fell in 1453, not to barbarians, but to the Ottoman Turks and their new technology, gunpowder cannons. Sultan Mehmed II breached those legendary walls. The last Roman emperor, Constantine XV, died fighting on the ramparts. Constantinople became Istanbul. The city that was Roman for over 2,100 years is now one of the world's great tourist destinations. But it's no longer Roman. So what killed Rome? It wasn't the barbarians. They just delivered the final blow to an already dead empire. Rome destroyed itself through 1. Military overextension. An army so large and expensive it required constant conquest just to maintain itself. When expansion stopped, collapse began. 2. Economic inequality. When the elite became obscenely wealthy while ordinary citizens struggled, social cohesion vanished. 3. Loss of shared identity. When being Roman meant nothing anymore, why would anyone defend Rome? And 4. Political instability. When leaders are chosen by force rather than legitimacy, the system is already broken. Now here's the uncomfortable question. Does any of this sound familiar? A superpower with military bases across the globe. A defense industry so massive the economy depends on it, growing wealth inequality, political polarization destroying a shared identity, endless military conflicts draining resources. I'm not saying America is Rome. Every empire is different. Every historical situation is unique. But the patterns are concerning. The difference is, we can learn from history. Rome couldn't see its mistakes while making them. We have the advantage of hindsight. The question is, will we use it? Rome thought it was eternal. Every empire does. But history teaches us that nothing lasts forever, unless you understand why things fall and work to prevent it. The Roman historian Livy wrote, "We can endure neither our vices nor their remedies." In other words, we know what's destroying us, but fixing it is too painful. Rome proved him right. The question for our generation is, will we? If this perspective on history interested you, subscribe to our channel. We analyze how ancient civilizations rose and fell, and what those patterns mean for our world today. Thank you for watching The Wisdom of Time.